For the Jaguars.
Oh, it's coffee.
The Broncos are going to lose today.
Never?
It's nothing special. Small. 49ers are biased on KD.
That is a stupid idea. You're
No. If I can't take it when my team...
I'll give the Colts the benefit of the doubt. Madden 21 was so bad.
So last time I'm getting my body.
Has he played? Has he started in the right to tell you?
Tag him on Instagram. Second, and all these tantrums. I could have...
Monte Foreman coming out of Texas.
Truly appreciate the offer.
What is good, ladies and gentlemen? Of course, I had an Isaiah technical issue, a massive brain fart diarrhea here, but I'm the host of the show. That One Dude 2020 every single Thursday, 11:30 p.m. or obviously tonight, 11:50 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're not going to like what you have to hear, but this is what you do. We do the honest truth, just like it says in the trailer. But ladies and gentlemen, of course, as you heard last night, I know this is kind of rehashing a small topic, but it's just my final thoughts on it now that it's just my own show tonight, is that when we're here on the MSX Sports Network, I keep saying I'm thankful, so maybe it's just not going to say stop saying that. But this was the beginning of a sports career. Colin is coming back, like we keep saying over and over and over. But no matter what our beliefs are, no matter what we believe about certain topics, we know we can always come together as the MI6 Brotherhood. So again, thank you, Colin, for what you do, giving me an opportunity here. But as you know, Colin's looking forward to this here. Let's get to the one comment here. Yes, Luis, he said, darn it, intro though. Yes, I basically have a massive brain fart. You know, it happens, just things like that. It's not Isaiah's internet getting to me, maybe Isaiah's thought process, just a little bit. But the first one, we're going to be roasting Isaiah. Again, we know his bad sports takes are going to be compared to an NFL franchise. And I don't think Christy Wilson is going to like this. But I'll have my friend kind of introduce the topic just a little bit. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Dallas Cowboys that I'm comparing Isaiah's sports takes to. Isaiah's sports takes are like the Dallas Cowboys because, oh, it sounds good in their head. You get Mike McCarthy in a sleepover here. Then, oh my gosh, you get Mike Nolan from doing whatever. It sounds great. But then when you spew that garbage out of your mouth, you spew that garbage of paying Amari Cooper, you spew that garbage of paying all these different guys, you pay Ezekiel Elliott, they give you false hope. Isaiah's sports takes are like Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. They give you false hope. You think something is going to happen. We think something is going to go into fruition. It always comes to bite them in the butt. Isaiah's sports takes is just like Jerry Jones. You compare Jerry Jones to Isaiah. They give you false hope. It sounds good. You talk about Michigan, you hype them up and everything, and we know what happened with that. Harbaugh got a 1-year prove deal, even though he can't even beat himself in Madden 21. But Isaiah, I had to compare your bad sports takes to the Dallas Cowboys here. But this last one, though, a lot of people don't play EA Madden anymore, but I'm comparing Isaiah's bad sports takes to a Madden NFL game. And frankly, it's going to have to be Madden 21 because, yes, I did get blocked by EA from emailing them when I asked for a refund. That shows you what EA is. But if you had to talk about Madden 21, like Isaiah's sports takes, it's a new sports take. It sounds good. It's like Madden 21, but there's so many glitches. There's so many faults on Isaiah's arguments. There's so many loopholes that no matter what he tries to do, EA tries to back themselves up from a terrible game. Isaiah tries to back himself up from a sports take. He tries to take back or switch his takes to say, no, I picked Buffalo. No, I picked the Indianapolis Colts. No, I picked Cleveland. Just like EA says, oh, no, we're going to have this new thing. And Isaiah's just like, oh, my gosh, Matt Campbell with the New York Jets. Just like EA with Lamar Jackson on the cover. And what happened? Isaiah Sports Takes is basically like Madden 21. Of course, we don't have enough time to go through all the terrible Madden games thanks to EA. It is not in the game. But ladies and gentlemen, get into the 2 comments here. Christopher Wilson says, "Oh no, you didn't. You had to go there, didn't you?" I'm sorry, but the Cowboys, Christy, is like a punching bag. Just like Isaiah Sports Takes. It sounds good on paper in his head. But this is what separates the man from the boys. Just because it sounds good in your head doesn't mean you should spew that massive verbal diarrhea out loud. Because you have plenty of examples, ladies and gentlemen, of Isaiah's verbal mouth diarrhea coming back to bite him in the butt. Of course, you know this one. Cal knows this one. Isaiah doesn't want everybody to see it, but we're going to have to share it.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Wild Card Sunday. Hope you guys are all watching these great games that are going on right now. You know, we had the Ravens stunning the Titans earlier in the day. Then we had the Saints completely clamping down on that Chicago Bears offense. And moving on to set up Brady versus Breeze Part 3, Bucks Saints, the third matchup. And then now we got the Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Browns jumping out to a huge lead in this game before the Steelers fought back, and now the Browns are trying to close it out and, you know, try to advance to the next round and go to Kansas City next week. But ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I'm here to talk to y'all has nothing to do with the NFL playoffs. I've gotta give a pointed message to the New York Jets. I am extremely pissed off right now at the New York Jets because I don't know if you guys saw my video on my Facebook timeline where I called for Woody Johnson, for Christopher Johnson, and for the Jets to go get Matt Campbell, the head coach of Iowa State, after they fired Adam Gase. I said that Matt Campbell was going to be a perfect fit. He would fit like a glove. He would be the guy that would turn the Jets around. And I was so amped up. I was so hyped up. You know, when news trickled in Saturday morning that Matt Campbell was going to interview with the New York Jets for their head coaching job. The report came from Jason Lockenfora of CBS Sports. I was so amped up. I was like, yes, yes, yes! The Jets are finally doing something. The Jets are finally listening to me. The Jets are going to turn it around. You know, they're going to, you know, be back to what they were back when Joe Namath was the quarterback of the New York Jets. This is a glorious day, you know. My wish will finally come true. Matt Campbell's going to be the next head coach of the New York Jets. And then 6 hours later, you had reports coming out from Bruce Feldman, who is one of the most respected analysts in college football, most respected newsbreakers in all of college football. He comes out and says that that report was false and that Matt Campbell has turned down an interview from the New York Jets. He won't be interviewing with the New York Jets for their head coaching job. Damn you, Jets! Why do you always have to do Jets things? Why can't y'all turn it around, man? This is the guy that y'all needed to get. Why do y'all have to keep blowing everything? Why? I wanted Matt Campbell desperately to be your head coach. And instead, either your owner is too cheap or whatever, or your organization's culture is so damn toxic that you scared off the guy that would have been the perfect fit, that would have been the savior for this team. And that's not all, ladies and gentlemen. The only reason why I'm pissed off, not just because I didn't get my wish, it's because I bought a Jets t-shirt. I bought a Jets t-shirt for $20 a couple of days ago because I was so confident that Matt Campbell, it was going to be the new head coach of the New York Jets. And guess what? That t-shirt is coming, but Matt Campbell is not coming. So I am going to have to wear a Jets t-shirt for no freaking reason. Why, Jets? Why do you always have to do Jets stuff and blow every single golden opportunity that you have? Why? Why? Why?
It's not just bad enough, Isaiah. You kind of jinxed the New York Jets. You even jinxed your San Francisco 49ers, who gave Paul Soap. You lost your defensive coordinator. You don't have no quarterback. No, sir, Josh Rosen isn't the savior. No, it's not Nick Mullins. It's not any of these guys. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just one example of Isaiah's bad sports takes decisions biting him in the butt. Does that sound like a familiar owner in the NFL? And Jerry Jones, this is really just not a surprise. Matt Campbell's going to take the job. Robert Saleh, who had a great year at the San Francisco 49ers in the 2019-2020 NFL season, going to the Super Bowl, obviously came short, but no doubt was a phenomenal year. But Isaiah, how about your 49ers? You just lost your defensive coordinator. Defensive coordinators are not always easy to come by. But Isaiah, let your team do what they do and let the Jets do what they do. In my genuine opinion, Matt Campbell wouldn't have been a good fit. But even if, no matter who you pick, this is the Jets organization. Like I've told Cal and again, like I've told so many people, it doesn't matter who you pick. This is the same New York Jets organization that believed in Mark Sanchez. Again, Christy Wilson says the roasting of Isaiah yesterday continues. It never stops, Christy. Again, Christy comes in saying again, I bet he's angry over the New York Jets hiring Robert Saleh. Well, Isaiah, I would love to hear your opinions in the comment section below because no, you can't hop on and dance on the show. Nobody wants to see that type of therapy here, ladies. Again, going back to more NFL talk after the quick roast of Isaiah, even though we can just look at previous videos of Isaiah to just roast himself. This past week, the Philadelphia Eagles fired Doug Peterson after supposedly Doug Peterson made the decision to bench Jalen Hurts while they're down by 3 in favor of backup or third-string quarterback Nate Sudfeld. And I say this just one last point so we're not rehashing the same topic. I truly and genuinely do not believe Doug Peterson made that decision. Like I've told a lot of people here on this network and anywhere else that I talk football, it's going to be one of those stories that we're not going to know the full truth. There's going to be a lot of things in the NFL that behind the scenes that we're not going to know about. Now things are slowly but surely starting to come into effect. Apparently, even in 2016, the Philadelphia Eagles and Doug Peterson and the GM were already clashing heads before they drafted Carson Wentz. So this marriage was even doomed from the start. My question for anybody that is a Philadelphia Eagles fan or anybody that is a football fan here on the fans on the MI6, who do you think is to blame? Is it the GM? Is it the head coach? Because I believe, like we saw, we're not going to replay it, but Doug Peterson in the press conference after the game, he's shaking his head like, what in heck green earth happened? Do we really think, if Doug Peterson says he wants to keep his job and he's confident in Carson Wentz, do we really think in our heart, mind, and soul that Doug Peterson would make that decision? No. But ladies and gentlemen, this is another perfect example of the Philadelphia Eagles biting themselves in the butt. This is already headed from destruction when they decided to let go of Nick Foles. They let him go. He went to Jacksonville. As to Matt Nagy, how did that work out with the Chicago Bears? Sorry, Callan, I kind of know that you need some therapy from that. Obviously, all jokes. You know, the Chicago Bears are not about. But this is not a surprise. I just don't think it's Doug Peterson's fault. But I would love to see which NFL team does decide to pick up Doug Peterson, whether as a coordinator, as a coach. Well, I don't think that it's his fault for that decision. I don't think he made that decision. I think small things as a leader, like literally making a book right after the Super Bowl. But this one game this past week coming up on that one due to 2020, again, it was this past week on NFL Wildcard Weekend. I just wanted to discuss one of them as Ryan is taking some time away for celebration. His Cleveland Browns defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just want to talk about it because I was one of the very few rare people to pick the Cleveland Browns. This is a thing where when you're a sports fan, when you play sports, there's nothing wrong with trash talking, but do it after the game. If you can't back it up, if you're going to talk all that smack, if you're going to poke the bear, don't be surprised when the bear attacks and comes back with bigger ammunition. Well, Juju, how did it work? This is a one-dimensional football team. Pass, pass, pass. It just simply does not work. Ladies and gentlemen, the Steelers have a very uncomfortable offseason. Big Ben's cap for 2021, minimum $40+ million, and there's about 24 to 25 of that you can't deal with it. It's dead money. This is cap year, and next year it's reported that the cap is going to get even lowered. So the Steelers have a lot of uncomfortable conversations. Can you keep Juju? Are you going to draft a running back? They let Le'Veon Bell go. I know there's probably a lot of internal dialogue, a lot of internal drama here, but the Steelers could not overcome against the Cleveland Browns here. The Cleveland Browns lost Kevin Stefanski and all of these guys. But again, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. I know it didn't necessarily completely always show up in Nick Chubb's numbers, but when it mattered, he ran the football. Baker Mayfield is actually the franchise quarterback. Now, mind you, going into next week, they need to have a different attitude. But I'm not surprised at all the Cleveland Browns beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, because when a team is a one-dimensional football team, ladies and gentlemen, just like in anything, when we have one skill set, and in any job, we have to have multiple skill sets to work on, you're going to get exposed. Somebody's going to come in and take your job. Just in the sports industry or doing security or anything else, you're going to get exposed. Somebody's going to take your job. You saw those tears on Ben Roethlisberger this past week, because he knows it's probably over. Your marriage, you can't just commit tax fraud or something, and then somehow they have enough money to sign all of these players. But not a surprise, ladies and gentlemen, that the Browns this past weekend defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kind of Christy Wilson was saying here, the Browns overcame COVID to beat the Steelers. You couldn't have said it any better. Losing your head coach, your special teams coordinator was your head coach. I give full props. If like Ryan said, and I couldn't agree with him more. If Kevin Stefanski doesn't win Coach of the Year, then I would know who would. Of course, this next topic here on That One Dude 2020, coming back to more coaching hires. Obviously, it's not going to be more roasting of Isaiah. We could have a whole show on that one. The Dallas Cowboys, Christy Wilson's Dallas Cowboys decided to hire Dan Quinn as their defensive coordinator after recently firing Mac Nolan after 1 year, when the Dallas Cowboys defense had one of the worst, if not the worst, defense in NFL history. The question is here, when you have Dan Quinn in the Dallas Cowboys, is this going to make this team any better? It could, but it couldn't. But let me explain here. It could help them depending on what the Dallas Cowboys do in free agency, depending on what the Dallas Cowboys do in the NFL draft. One looming thing that's going to be happening these next couple of months is Dak Prescott, because it depends. You can have that great defense, but if you don't have that offensive production, the defense doesn't really matter. I just don't truly and genuinely see Dan Quinn making a big impact with the Dallas Cowboys. Even as a head coach, again, head coach, defensive coordinator are two different things. The only success that they had in Atlanta was with Kyle Shanahan being the defensive coordinator. Personality-wise, do I know Dan Quinn and what he's like? No. But personality-wise of Dan Quinn and Jerry Jones, do you really think that's going to work? You have DeMarcus Lawrence, who didn't show up last year. You have so many defensive players to address in the NFL draft. And with how the NFC East is going, I just don't see Dan Quinn being a great defensive coordinator. Now, can he be much worse than Mike Nolan? No, without a doubt. But I just don't see in what way Dan Quinn and the Dallas Cowboys really working out. Because, folks, when we look at defensive coordinators for NFL teams, it's about making the team better, making great decisions here. Not based off of emotions, not based on what the flashiest player. I think Dan Quinn could be interesting, but having him as a defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys could have a lot of issues here. You have the Washington football team here who have a great young defense. You have the Giants, like Freddie Henderson. I heard they're also being sponsored by Ashley Furniture's Home Store this playoffs. So maybe you should check them out. You get a code Giants failed the playoffs in 2021. Again, all jokes and all fun here. But Dan Quinn, what it's going to boil down to with him with the Dallas Cowboys Is he going to be able to come up with a different style of defense? Not just in the last 4 to 5 weeks and getting hot. It's about being consistent week after week after week. And we see that with teams in the playoffs also when their defense isn't consistent from week 1 to week 17 and head into the playoffs. You can look at Seattle. Look at many, many other teams in the NFL. You can have this offense with potentially Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, maybe Blake Jarwin if he can come back next year, Dallas Schultz, all these guys. Questions on the offense line. It is a big deal on how Dan Quinn plays as a defensive coordinator because that affects the whole team. Now, what are the Dallas Cowboys going to address in the NFL draft? We don't know. I think Dan Quinn could do a good job, but let's not expect a Kyle Shanahan type of thing with the Atlanta Falcons here. If you look at the defense for the Dallas Cowboys and the players that they have, I can't, and this is not me being like a Cowboys hater, I can't name one player, unless Chrissy or anybody else can give me an opinion of what defensive player actually stands out that is not just flashy, but gets the job done week after week. Maybe a Michael Brockers type of player. Not maybe say Aaron Donald. There's so many, name different defensive players. With Dan Quinn being the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys for the 2021 season, if not after, does that impact who they select first in the draft? Yes, but after they make a decision on Dak Prescott, because this matters. You have to have a defense, but if you don't necessarily have that offense, like we saw with kind of with Chicago or many other teams, again, Cal, I'm not here to dog on your Bears, but it's an example because you have Clay Mack and all those guys. Kim Hicks from the Denver Broncos traded to the Chicago Bears multiple years ago. But when we see defensive teams play great, but their offense doesn't match, I know it's very rare in history where just a defense can do great, but the offense doesn't match the defensive production. We can look at the Baltimore Ravens. We can look at maybe one other team. But the fact of the matter is you have to have that defense. I just don't see Dan Quinn making the Dallas Cowboys defense any better. Again, he's not going to make it any worse than Mike Nolan. But is Jerry Jones going to let himself get in the way? Clearly, they're confident in Mike McCarthy. Picture Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn. Both played in the NFC. Both had some years success, you can say, in the NFC, in the NFL. How are those personalities going to clash in big moments? Later in the season in 2021, how are they going to come together, rally around the team? Because mind you, we're going back to the Andy Dalton thing. I'm not going to get too loud because I want to wake up my mom again like we did last time. But really here, it is about the Dallas Cowboys don't have the brotherhood. Dallas Cowboys don't have that family. Like we continue to talk about the brotherhood in football. So who's going to be that leader of the Dallas Cowboys? Not necessarily one of the players, but any of the staff. Is it going to be Mike McCarthy? Not really. You see him going, he doesn't have much of a personality of a leader. Is Dan Quinn going to rally the troops? Because in a big moment, ladies and gentlemen, the Dallas Cowboys on the defense, when they need a big defensive stop, the question is before we move on, can Dan Quinn motivate his team to close out the game and potentially compete for the division in 2021? This is not a flashy pick. It doesn't matter. Just because it's a flashy pick, it doesn't mean it's going to work. It doesn't mean it's not going to work. I really do hope it does. I just don't see the leadership and who they have on the defensive roster really making a much of a difference with Dan Quinn and the Dallas Cowboys next year. Again, one of these next topics here is another coaching hire, but on the head coaching side in the AFC South here, the Jacksonville Jaguars hire former Ohio State head coach Urban Meyer, who had a cushy good job with Fox Sports for college football. I don't really understand why he took the job. It's good for him to get a job in the NFL. It's maybe great for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I think it gives false hope to the Jacksonville Jaguars fans. I'm not saying Urban Meyer is going to be a bad head coach. I hope he does succeed, but this is the same organization. This is the same owner who stays in London, who most likely, I don't believe, even talks to the media, who wants to play games in London. This is the same team that signed Nick Foles for that deal. This is the same team that believed in Blake Bortles. This is the same team that had multiple guys over the years. This is the same team that had Saxonville in 2017. So if Urban Meyer is going to be this head coach, is the owner, again, I apologize, I always forget his name. Is Urban Meyer going to have full control, or is he going to pull a Jerry Jones? No, you can do this and this. You can draft this player at this spot. Urban Meyer, if he's going to have success with the Jacksonville Jaguars, he has to have more control here. And the bigger question is, Christy makes a really good point. She says, I hope Urban Meyer's health doesn't become an issue like it was when he was at Florida. Again, when he had it at Florida, you had Cam Newton and Tim Tebow being the guy. And, of course, he had another tight end being on the roster who we're not going to talk about. And, of course, when he was at Ohio State. Whether I like your team or not, whether we know the organization for the Jacksonville Jaguars has failed to get it done time and time again. I do wish his health to be the best, but it does raise a question. Not because I'm a hater. I just want to know. Is Dan Quinn's health going to affect later in the season when you're a potential division-clinching game or potentially maybe finding your franchise quarterback? And the question is also with your health. There are certain people saying, oh, they should draft Justin Fields. Some people should draft Trevor Lawrence here. Clearly, Gardner Minshew isn't going to be the guy. How is his health going to be in big moments when he has to make a tough decision? Again, I don't remember the exact issues or with what it was with his health. So if anybody can remind me in the comment section, I would love to hear any of y'all's opinions, whether you like what I have to say or not. But I think it would be interesting having Urban Meyer with the Jacksonville Jaguars. But this could be a situation where another former college head coach coming to the NFL and it doesn't work out. Where have we seen that before? Nick Saban and many other guys. It doesn't mean he can't have success, but one of the many things you need to learn about the NFL is that history does repeat itself. I know it's an appealing job because the Jacksonville Jaguars have a lot of money to spend. They maybe got a couple of picks. You got a great young running back, I believe, in James Robinson, who could potentially replace Leonard Fournette. What we see with the Jaguars, despite what they had in 2017, there was drama. Is Urban Meyer going to be that coach to put his foot down? Is no, we're not going to deal with this. If you want to act like a child, if you want to act like a toddler, not get in their way, get out of here. Is Urban Meyer going to be the guy that's not going to put up with no BS? Again, one of the shows in here, no pun intended. Is he going to be the guy that's not going to put up with any BS from the owner, from the organization? I guarantee you Urban Meyer's going to be the guy. He's not going to put up with no drama. This isn't daycare. This isn't being a teacher. He needs to put his foot down and do what he feels like is best, and hopefully his health does not get in the way. Isaiah says right here, Urban Meyer is a terrific hire by the Jacksonville Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence coming in. 11 draft picks. That's a good point. I did not know that. In the NFL draft, $100+ million in cap space, no state income tax, and all of that. And also the free agents could be appealing with all that money. So mind you, in March, like I'm saying, beware what the Jacksonville Jaguars can do in free agency or what they could not do in free agency. I say it completely. He says, I completely agree with Colin Cowherd on the herd here. I think Urban Meyer will win the division. Urban Meyer winning the division with the Jaguars in 3 years. I think it's a good point, but maybe it's uncomfortable. Let me kind of explain that here. The Tennessee Titans blew it this past week. They lost. Ryan Tannehill, there's questions if they can't get it done next year with Ryan Tannehill on that offense, because when they stop Derrick Henry, the team is a blah blah. It is basically like the most bland of ice cream. As much as we love A.J. Brown, Geno Smith, and for some reason, Corey Davis was on the bench. So I want to know. Tennessee Titans organization, I truly and genuinely want to know. Why was Corey Davis on the sideline? But with the Jacksonville Jaguars doing with what Urban Meyer could do this offseason, free agency in the draft, I could see, I know it's maybe not the best sports take, but I think it is valid. Because Houston, Deshaun Watson's going to be gone, ladies and gentlemen. J.J. Watt's going to be gone. Deshaun Watson's going to be gone. The Colts are probably going to be drafting another quarterback behind Philip Rivers if they do plan to re-sign Philip Rivers. So there's a lot of guys at the quarterback position going to be leaving in the AFC South. So I think that could be a genuine good point here as we're looking at some of the comments here. Casey King comes in and says, not sure how long he will last in the NFL, but I think he took this job because his wife likes Florida. I mean, it's a good point. If your wife likes it, happy wife, happy life. And she wasn't happy when he left the Florida Gators. And I completely agree. We know kind of We're not going to go into a little bit of what happened at Florida. You could kind of do your own research here, ladies and gentlemen, but a lot of things did happen at Florida for him, and you just never know what can really happen here. Again, as Casey Keene comes in, it says, going back to the Doug Peterson situation, because I think it was more upstairs on Doug Peterson's exit. I couldn't agree. Kind of like what I'm going back to, Casey Keene, is the situation even back in 2016 with who he wanted to have as his offense coordinator, who he wanted to have on his coaching staff. And they didn't like that. They wanted a little puppet that you could string. They wanted a little Pinocchio. And they weren't going to get that with Doug Peterson, and they were going to find a way to try and fire him, and that's exactly what happened. And he says, I think Doug sits out a year and then returns somewhere else next year. I think that's kind of a good point, because when you look at Doug Peterson, what's happened, whether it's his fault or not, we say allegedly, none of us know what truly happened, and maybe we won't. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Whether it's Doug Peterson's fault or not, allegedly, teams are going to have the excuse not to hire him as a coordinator, special teams coach, head coach, because of that situation, even though it is not his fault, I believe, in my genuine opinion. Again, buyer beware. I don't know. I have no proof. This is just stating my opinion and not facts. Casey Keene also comes in and says, congrats on the show. Thank you, man. This also is a huge thank you to Callum and everybody else giving me an opportunity when they really did not have to. Chrissy Wilson comes in and saying, I said it before, the Dallas Cowboys defense does have some talent. It does have some talent in Jalen Smith, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Lance Van Der Esch, and the entire secondary worries me. You ever thought of that? They do have that talent, Chrissy Wilson. I just think can Dan Quinn be the guy to get that talent to come together and have results on the field? That is another question here. And Chrissy Wilson also comes in and says, maybe the Cowboys need a different defensive scheme. I will be interested to see what kind of defensive scheme can Dan Quinn do with the Dallas Cowboys here in 2021. A couple other people also come in and say, we got Isaiah saying what he's saying. Oh, geez, Isaiah, this is another roast here. Drinking a nice glass of coffee and watching that one dude crush it is probably a McDonald's coffee here. And make sure don't jump over the fence and get the cops called. Again, Isaiah also comes in and says, out of the current head coaching vacancies in the NFL, where will you rank the Eagles head coach job at? I'm going to rank it at one of the lowest here. And I say this not because of the cap space, not because of Jalen Hurts or Carson Wentz and all those situations. It's because if the owner or the GM wanted a little Pinocchio, wanted a little puppet in Doug Peterson, what kind of guy that wants to be a head coach, wants to be a puppet in the job? Anybody, I would love to hear your thoughts. When you're a job or you want to be a head coach in the NFL, do you want to be a puppet to tell people what to do? Oh, this is who you're going to hire. This is who you're going to draft. You want to do your job and prove to the entire organization what you can do, what you're about in huge, crucial moments. And I think the Eagles is probably one of the most least desirable head coaching vacancies just because they're looking for a Pinocchio puppet, and you don't want to be a puppet because we've learned that from multiple teams. How does that truly and genuinely work out? Evan comes in saying, can't believe the Steelers choked. Again, I'm not surprised just because they're a team that's pass. And when you stop the pass clear early on in the game, they really had nothing left. And of course, Mike Tomlin has said that multiple times, not having that confidence in the running game. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to the NFL division around here on that one, dude, 2020. Plenty of great games come up. Maybe have some unpopular opinions. We'll be right back just after a 30-second break. As the NFL division round playoffs do come up this weekend, a couple of teams are coming up in the AFC and NFC. I don't know if Casey's going to maybe agree with one of my takes here. But again, Saturday, January 16th, the NFC, the number 6 seed, the Los Angeles Rams, will face the number 1 NFC team in the Green Bay Packers. I know I've been critical of Aaron Rodgers. I know I've been critical of both teams. I'm going to give my full take. Casey King, the Los Angeles Rams need to turn in their keys, turn in their paperwork for the 2021 season, get the casket, get everything. And no, Isaiah, they're not getting a pina colada to enjoy the offseason. You can enjoy and join in on the Ashley Furniture's home store for the playoffs, just like the Giants, the Cowboys, and every other team. I'm picking the Green Bay Packers. I know there's been suspect. I know there's been a lot of questions with the Green Bay Packers defense in the past. Of course, you go last year looking at Raheem Mostert and how they practically gave up so many yards, and the running attack and the passing attack is inconsistent in moments in the playoffs. But Jared Goff is going to be playing. But can he be enough? Because we know, and Cal and I agree with what he said, the way the Rams would win this game, even though I don't pick them, is going to be through defense. Michael Brockers, Aaron Donald, all of those guys you have is going to be a big deal. But like I've said before, and I'll continually to verbally say this in y'all's head, the defensive, the offensive production has to match what the defense does. I just think with Aaron Rodgers, if you give him any lick of time, any time in a crucial moment, whether it's 1 minute, 30 seconds, 10 seconds, even a second on the clock, you've seen what Aaron Rodgers has done in the playoffs, in the regular season. He has that magical Hail Mary throw, and a lot of times he converts it, and it's a touchdown. Never count on Aaron Rodgers, and I believe this is also in Green Bay. So here, the Green Bay Packers are going to have winning here because it's a question. It's going to be defense for the Los Angeles Rams here, but the running game matters in the playoffs. Passing numbers matter in the playoffs, who I'll talk about with another AFC matchup here coming up in just a little bit on that one due 2020 here. When you look at the Rams offense and you look at the Packers defense, Packers offense and the Rams offense, neglect how many great weapons the Rams have. Just look at the quarterback position. In a clutch moment on the offense, in a 2-minute drill between Jared Goff and Aaron Rodgers, neglect what the defense has done for both teams. Just like both quarterbacks, in a clutch moment, who are we truly, genuinely going to trust to put the team on their back to win the game? And I know Freddie Henderson, I have been critical of the Packers in Green Bay, but it's Aaron Rodgers who I'm going to trust in this clutch moment here. It's going to be a very close game. And again, I don't believe Jared Goff has fully recovered from that thumb injury. And again, my prayers and thoughts are with John Wolford here, who is obviously hopefully out of the hospital with the neck injury. Hopefully he gets well very soon. And what he did in the last regular season game for the Los Angeles Rams was definitely very interesting. But again, I had the Green Bay Packers beating the Los Angeles Rams, not because of what the defense can't do for the Packers. It's because Aaron Rodgers, you never count him out. Another one we're looking at here is the Baltimore Ravens versus the Buffalo Bills. Just like I said a minute ago, folks, passing matters in the playoffs. And again, we tend to look at Lamar Jackson and we tend to ignore him, or he's exempt from certain things of the past in the NFL. Passing matters in the playoffs. Tell that to Big Ben. Tell that to Phillip Rivers. Tell that to Drew Brees. Passing matters in the playoffs. You could be all flashy on defense. You can look at your legs. Your legs is not going to win this game for the Baltimore Ravens here. It's going to have to be because of your passing, and I still haven't seen that. I give you the win last week, Lamar. I give you that, but you still had an interception. It's going to be one of those games where each drive for both teams is going to have to be either a touchdown, because with either team, we know Lamar Jackson. We know Josh Allen is very mobile. Since 2018, is a top 3, top 4 most mobile quarterback in terms of rushing touchdowns. We don't talk about that from Josh Allen because Lamar Jackson is the more sexier football topic. But I'm going to have to pick the Buffalo Bills. So we look at the Buffalo Bills here. You look at Josh Allen. Can the Baltimore Ravens keep Josh Allen in the pocket? Because Josh Allen, when he gets clean out of the pocket, he gets a good measure downfield of Stephon Diggs. Remember, don't forget Cole Beasley, who can also rap too. You got John Brown. I believe you have one of these starting tight ends in Tyler Kroft here. I'm just going to pick the Bills. But what is going to be a big, difficult thing for the Buffalo Bills defense is stopping the running game. Yes, I am critical of Lamar Jackson, and he has to improve on his passing. But the fact of the matter is, can the Bills stop the Ravens' running offense? Because if they can't, It's going to be a very difficult game for the Buffalo Bills here. But again, I pick the Buffalo Bills beating the Baltimore Ravens here. I'm just not really too convinced of the Baltimore Ravens just yet. But if the Ravens do win, even though I don't think they will, I'm willing to swallow my pride. I'm not going to make an excuse. It's not because I got McDonald's coffee. It's not because I had a virgin pina colada. It's not any of those things. I will admit when I'm wrong about a sports take, unlike one of the fellow co-hosts here on the MI6 Sports Network. Again, going to Sunday on NFL Division Week here, we have an AFC matchup of the Cleveland Browns versus the number 1 seed in the AFC in the Kansas City Chiefs. I know the Browns won last week. I know that it is a great story. It is a great thing. I do pick Cleveland, and I know this is not Isaiah taking over my brain, tell me what to say in these AirPods here. I think it's the running game for the Browns that's going to set them apart, but I think no more than 1 point. But like every team, like I said in the past, it's just really hard to do, if not impossible. Anything can happen in the NFL. You have to keep Patrick Mahomes contained. Even then, you can't do that. So what do you have to do, ladies and gentlemen? Keep the Chiefs on the sideline, and it's hard. But just like one of our co-hosts said on one of the shows here on the MI6 Sports Network this past week is you got to have a touchdown every single drive. Because do we need to look at the divisional round last year, who I trash talked because the Houston Texans were up 2 to 3 touchdowns before the end of the first quarter. And look what happened. By halftime, they were up at 1.5 to 2 scores. So the Chiefs are a team. If you can't match what they're doing in offense in terms of touchdowns, you don't have a chance. You could have the greatest kicker in the NFL. You could have the greatest tight end or the greatest running back. But if you don't score a touchdown every single drive and have long offensive drives, which keeps them off the field. I know we keep talking about time of possession. That gets kind of annoying. But it's exceptionally key, maybe just for the Kansas City Chiefs. Keep them on the sideline. But yes, you can keep them on the sideline for multiple minutes at a time. But if you're not scoring while keep them on the sidelines, you're giving the Kansas City Chiefs more ammo. And what do you not want to do is give the Kansas City Chiefs any ammo to have a chance to win this game. But I'm going to have to pick Cleveland just because I am convinced of the running game. And don't underestimate Jarvis Landry, Rashard Shield-Jones, and Higgins, and all those guys. You have Njoku. You have Austin Hooper. I believe had his first big touchdown with the Cleveland Browns last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But again, I had the Cleveland Browns beating the Chiefs. But if they can't keep that offense off on the sidelines, it's definitely going to be a long, long game here. This next one here, I know people probably aren't going to like it, but I pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to beat the New Orleans Saints. Why should anybody trust Drew? Why should anybody trust Drew Brees in the playoffs? I'll give you the benefit of doubt on this one. That play against the Rams was a foul. That was a flag. That should have been called. I give you that fact. But what did Drew Brees do in overtime when it mattered? He threw an interception. And what we see from the Drew Brees in the playoffs year after year after year is that in the first 2 to 3 quarters, he looks like garbage. He looks like the Isaiah of quarterbacks in the NFL, where he can't get it done. And towards the end of the third quarter into the fourth quarter, he tries to come back, and one or two things happen. He comes back, and it's too late, or he does come back, and they barely win the football game. Twice is against Minnesota. So, again, I don't trust Drew Brees in the playoffs. Drew Brees is 9-7. This is your elite playoff quarterback. Folks, he hasn't won a Super Bowl since last decade. That's why he was left on the NFL All-Decade team. Drew Brees hasn't been to a Super Bowl since I was in 6th grade. I'm 23. So I understand we have different opinions about certain NFL teams. But talking about in a clutch moment, you got Drew Brees and Tom Brady. I know the Bible says respect your elders, and that's important. Again, we have 2 elders here, a Brees versus Brady. I'm going to have to pick Brady. Again, I'm not a Brady fan. I'm not a Drew Brees fan. But when you have a guy that's climb up clutch more in the playoffs than one guy, Drew Brees doesn't have any ammo. Because I know we talk about Alvin Kamara. I know we talk about Michael Thomas in the defense that they have. I know that the Saints defense can be a lot more consistent, in certain moments against the Bucks. I know they beat the Bucks twice in the regular season, but that wasn't because of Drew Brees. Drew Brees played like cock-a-dilly doo-doo. So it wasn't because of Drew Brees they won in the regular season. So right now, if the Saints are going to somehow pull this off, I don't give them a chance. But again, it's going to be a close game because these are both guys who, yes, I've been critical about not Tom Brady, but Drew Brees. But Drew Brees is still a future first ballot Hall of Famer. But that doesn't neglect that he is exempt from criticism from NFL fans. Drew Brees is going to be, not the most, but is going to lose against Tom Brady. He's not going to Disney. In fact, he's going to the parody version of Disney, whatever it is. Drew Brees is going to lose against Tom Brady this weekend against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because when we talk about Tampa Bay, and we talk about Antonio Brown, we talk about Rob Gronkowski, we talk about Cameron Brate, Leonard Fournette, those guys, which one are you going to stop? I mean, what do we trust their defensive players? I mean, look at the Stephon Diggs touchdown in the divisional round with Case Keenum. What did the defense do then? You had a missed tackle. So with this roster they've had since the 2017 NFL draft, what have they done with that roster? They've come short every single time. It's not all on Drew Brees. It's on the entire organization here. If the Saints lose, there's also rumors that Drew Brees could retire after the 2021 NFL season here. If the Saints lose, does that increase Drew Brees and his chances of retiring, of course, from the NFL? But let's be real, folks. Do we truly believe Drew Brees is going to outplay Tom Brady? Now, mind you, is it because entirely on Tom Brady why they win? No. I believe the defense, Tom Brady will make some throws. He'll throw between 260 to 320 yards in the game and maybe 2 to 3 TDs total. It's not going to be solely just on Tom Brady why they win the game. It's the running game and the defense. I know the defense is suspect at giving up a lot of points. I know we look at Tampa Bay in the wild card round versus Washington. You had Tyler Heineke, who I probably pronounced his name wrong, who lit it up. I get that. But when you doubt Tom Brady, he comes up when the chips are down. Tom Brady delivers. That's why he has 6 Super Bowl rings where Drew Brees always has 1, and they have Drew Brees' ring on the History Channel Hall of Fame. But there's no doubt I'm going to have to pick Tampa Bay in this game. But just because I pick Tampa Bay, it doesn't mean there aren't questions to have. The offensive line is better with the Saints, but the running game in terms of running by committee is Tampa. I know we got Kamara. Those guys are great. But haven't seen them deliver in a big moment. They have a one-dimensional team. If Michael Thomas doesn't play, which I believe he will, the Saints don't play as well. Drew Brees is getting older. He isn't 100%. I don't trust Drew Brees in the playoffs. I don't trust Drew Brees in the playoffs, and I don't trust Isaiah to make a good logic, not nip him in the butt sports take here. Tampa Bay will win this game against the New Orleans Saints to potentially go to the NFC Championship game here. Again, ladies and gentlemen, to recap what I had for my games this weekend. Again, the Los Angeles Rams will barely lose against the Green Bay Packers, and the Baltimore Ravens will be defeated by the Buffalo Bills because Josh Allen is something phenomenal, and I tried to tell people after the 2019 season, but nobody wanted to hear it. Again, the Cleveland Browns will find a way to defeat the Chiefs, but it's going to kind of be ugly early on, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to beat the New Orleans Saints. I'm sorry. I don't know how more to crush y'all's dreams. I don't know what else to tell y'all. But find me a way where Drew Brees has to deliver. Again, in the playoffs, it's not all on him for the team not getting it done. But when Drew Brees gets the ball in the playoffs, he looks terrible. This is what Drew Brees is in the playoffs.
What? Oh my God, you had it!
And then he throws an interception and the game is over, ladies and gentlemen. But the Saints are going to be marching home. They're the Aints because they play so small when it truly and genuinely matters. You really can't believe that the Saints are going to be winning this game. But going to the comment section here, again, the technical glitch we had, or the massive brain fart, isn't going to be happening again. But Casey King comes in saying, I respect your take, John. Of course, we all disagree, but that is okay. And you could be right. It will be a tough game. I'm concerned with Jared Goff, and I do think it will be a close one down to the wire. I'm going to ride with my boys to win. Of course, you ride with your team no matter what. But it won't be a surprise if the Packers do win. We will see what happens. And yes, sir, Casey McKinney, we will see what happens. Casey McKinney also writes in and says, I'm going with the Buffalo Bills as well. Like I kind of say, Casey, I don't trust Lamar. And people say passing doesn't matter. Well, ask many different quarterbacks in previous playoff history. Passing does matter in the playoffs. No quarterback is exempt from that. Not Lamar Jackson, not nobody. Christy Wilson also says, the Browns are a great story, but I think the Chiefs will win. It's definitely going to be an interesting game and a must-win without a doubt. Christy Wilson also says here, I just can't bet against Drew Brees. However, I fear that the refs are going to screw the Saints over. Now, again, this goes back to say, I know that's a penalty. But again, Drew Brees, when it matters, you see it through the first 2 quarters. Those incompletions, those turnovers are not on the refs. That's Drew Brees just not getting it done. You can see the receivers aren't getting the spread away from the defenders. The receivers aren't running the right route. But what's going to come down to in this game for both teams, especially for Drew Brees and the Saints and potentially Drew Brees retiring after the year? Communication. This is the Superdome, and I understand, folks, that while there aren't as many fans, there are, I believe, a certain amount of fans this year for the playoffs for the New Orleans Saints versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But playing in the Superdome is something insane, either in the playoffs or the regular season. Ask RG3 in his first ever NFL game in 2012, where he threw for over 320 yards and 2 TDs. The Superdome, no matter what the scenario, no matter what the situation is here, it's going to be difficult, but I just can't count on Drew Brees to get it done, whether it's completely his fault or not. But ladies and gentlemen, the last topic we're going to be talking about today is more NFL, but the NFC side of things. The past day or two, the Seattle Seahawks. Again, pay attention because you may not like what I have to say, but let me present my case. The Seattle Seahawks extend their GM through the 2027 NFL Draft. I'm sorry, but this has to be one of the dumbest decisions. The GM makes decisions. You have a guy like Russell Wilson. You're not addressing the offensive line. Like Cal and I have said, everybody has said, any true NFL fan knows this. It doesn't matter how great your team is. You could have the greatest quarterback. You have the greatest running attack. The somewhat of players you have on the defensive side of the ball. If you do not address the offensive line, nothing else matters. The GM hasn't addressed the offensive line. Pete Carroll is still there. So I'm starting to ask. I'm starting to think. Who is genuinely more to blame for the non-success after the Legion of Boom divorce? Is it Pete Carroll or the GM? I'm going to have to say both. The GM has made lackluster and boring decisions. I understand you got DK Metcalf. I understand you got Tyler Lockett and Dickinson, or I can't remember what his name, at the tight end position here. But they have failed time and time again for getting help on the offense line. And the defense is just as boring as the McDonald's coffee or the most basic flavor of Lay's potato chips. I just don't see how the GM is somehow going to change what he's done over the years. Russell Wilson, this is basically how he feels playing with that offensive line. That's basically how he feels because, again, I don't care how mobile or great your quarterback is. You have to address the offensive line. Pete Carroll, the GM, have not addressed that. So I give half of the blame to the GM and half of the blame to Pete Carroll here. Because while you're trying to put the whole team on Russell Wilson, and while that isn't a bad thing because he's a franchise quarterback, the bad thing is here, folks, is that you can put it solely on the quarterback to win the game. But when you neglect the other pieces on the offense or neglect the other pieces on the defense, it's going to show, and that's exactly what we've seen. I just don't see at this point, if the GM and if Pete Carroll don't start making different decisions, nothing is ever going to change. And the Seattle Seahawks, again, are never going to win another Super Bowl since the Legion of Boom divorce. Some people say that Russell Wilson was carried by that defense, and they do make some good points. Because now that defense is gone, you can't rely on that defense. All these years after the Legion of Boom divorce, what makes you think all of a sudden the GM and Pete Carroll are suddenly going to change their mind? Oh my gosh, we need to address the offensive line. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Who is more to blame for the non-success of the Seattle Seahawks? Is it the GM John Snyder, or is it going to have to be the head coach and Pete Carroll for the Seattle Seahawks here? Because this just drives me crazy, because I don't put up with mediocrity in the NFL. I'm not a Seattle Seahawks fan. I just don't understand why Seattle is putting it all on Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is fighting for his life. He's staying alive. I just don't understand at this point in time. Let's be honest here, folks. Hear me ear to ear or eye to eye. If the Seattle Seahawks don't address anything of the offensive line or anything of the defense in the draft this year, specifically in the draft, I don't see Russell Wilson finishing his career with the Seattle Seahawks. Do we want another guy of Andrew Luck? I understand Andrew Luck was a little bit younger, but the same point applies to Russell Wilson. Why did he retire? Injuries. What did they not address to finally it was too late? The offensive line. Look what happened. Andrew Luck retired. Russell Wilson's not going to be able to play in his late 30s, early 40s if you don't address the offensive line. I just don't see at this point with the same thing during over and over and over and beating the dead horse. There's just absolutely no way that, in my opinion, right now, with what Seattle hasn't done after the Legion of Boom defense divorce, how Russell Wilson is going to finish his career with the Seattle Seahawks. Christy Wilson comes in saying, I blame Pete Carroll, and you're right. Because with Pete Carroll being so fascinated of how great Russell Wilson is, you forget how terrible your defense is. Yes, you traded for Jamal Adams. Yes, you got Quandre Diggs. I understand those are two great defensive players. But mind you, you still have the defensive tackle. I understand you got the guy from the Bengals, but that isn't enough. I'm not asking you, Pete Carroll, or the Seattle Seahawks organization to rebuild the Legion of Boom. But I'm asking you, not lower your expectations of Russell Wilson, but address the offensive line and address the defense. You're giving to the Seattle Seahawks fans false hope. It's the same thing again and again and again. If they don't address this, I don't see how in genuinely any single way the Seattle Seahawks are ever going to go back to the Super Bowl or even contend in the NFC Championship game. And by the time Pete Carroll and by the time the GM actually really address that, it's going to take them forever. That's going to be like, oh, what should we do? Oh, wait, Russell's return. Oh, wait, we should have addressed the offensive line. But again, I would love to hear your thoughts on that as we approach the end of That One Dude 2020. Pretty much actually every single Thursday at 11:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. But again, at the end of the show, we're going to do a final kind of roast of Isaiah. If you really just want to roast him, you can talk about Michigan, talk about anything else. But how I would like to officially end the show before we go to tonight's final thoughts, I have to play this. It's a meme.
Isaiah loses again. Isaiah loses again. 10 games of losing. Isaiah loses again. Skull, 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 skull. Skull, 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 skull. Still keep on losing. Isaiah loses again. Isaiah loses again. Isaiah loses again. 10 games of losing. Isaiah loses again. He's worse than Stephen Wayne. He's worse than Stephen Wayne. Skills keep on losing. Skull, 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 skull.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, there's no better way to end the show on that. Before we do, let's go to tonight's final thoughts. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is That One Dude 2020 every single Thursday at 11:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. But I can't say this enough. For Callan, deserves to do what he loves and get paid. I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be listening. But I say this, and maybe it gets annoying, and so be it. I'd rather be annoying in terms of a positive way. Thank you for giving me a chance. This MI6 Sports Network, not just for you and for everybody else here, is a brotherhood. Not just a show and how great it is, the post-show calls are another great thing. It's like one of the parties that nobody gets invited to besides like the owners or the CEOs or the people that are with the organization. It's one of those things that the post-show calls we're going to miss with Callan. But again, I do wish him the best and thank him Stephen Wang, and for everybody else giving me the opportunity to come onto the MI6 Sports Network. But one last comment before we end today's show. Christian Wilson says, if the Seattle Seahawks don't take care of these problems, Russell Wilson will end up finishing his career in a wheelchair. And Christian Wilson, I think that is the unfortunate news here. You could see that in him not finishing his career, of course, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, with the Seattle Seahawks. Again, I want to thank each and every person that has tuned in. Got Christian Wilson, Casey King, everybody else. Let's make sure we address static here. We got Evan coming in, Isaiah Leong, and many, many others that come onto the show to tune in the comments to give their thoughts, whether they agree or disagree. Again, Jamal, I apologize if I got your name wrong, but thank you to everybody that has tuned in to the show. It does mean a lot. And again, Kyle, we wish you the best. You know, you're going to come back and kick butt in August, of course, with the sports launch and everything else. But again, this is that One Dude 2020. I'll see you with y'all again soon. Cheers, God bless, and bye-bye.
For the Jaguars, McDonald's coffee. The Broncos are going to lose today. Never. It's nothing special. Small. 49ers are biased on KD. That is a stupid idea. No. If I can't take it when my team, I'll give the Colts the benefit of the doubt. Madden 21 was so bad.
So last time I'm getting my body again.
Has he played? Has he started in the Right to tell you. Tag him on Instagram. Second, on all these tantrums. I could have. Foreman coming out of Texas. Truly appreciate the offer.